And I think for me, you were saying the time thing, it's actually sometimes, I am writing about things that did happen. I think sometimes I just write because it starts to pour out things that are going to happen.
Right, right.
And it starts to pour into like things I should be assured of.
Right.
You know, like a part of my higher self is saying like, don't fear, this is what's happening.
Right.
You know, this person is in line with you, or this person does love you, does want to spend time with you. Do not fear the unknown.
Right, right.
And don't think too much about this is a process. And both you guys are actually being brought into this process right now.
Right.
And it's healing for both of you.
Right.
And then the next day, the person that you really, really want to hang out with calls up and she's like, the phone died. You know what I'm saying? You're like, yeah, I knew that, you know. Meanwhile, the day before, you're sweating bullets, you know. And so you're just like, okay, like this is the part of the process because it's bigger than you. You know what I'm saying? Even the other day I was writing in my book or whatever, and I was thinking, I was like, you know, I've been really concerned about my own self, like how I feel, like everybody wants to find a part, like somebody that they're just like buddies, you know what I'm saying? Or just their person. And like, I feel like in my life, God's going to put people in my life that are like my best friends, you know what I'm saying? And my best friend might be like 10, 15 years older than me, you know what I'm saying? Those things are within what they need to be for like that season. You know what I'm saying? Like I wouldn't have been ready to talk about any of this stuff with you 10 years ago.
Right.
Not because I didn't find it interesting, because I watch sci-fi movies. Right. You know, I love Star Wars and The Matrix, you know what I'm saying? But to be ready to really conceptualize the possibility of Merkaba travel, you know what I'm saying? Like I'm learning, like, okay, like some of my heart has to be ready too, to handle some of it.
Yes.
Like you said earlier, like if the process were like that, like an 11th dimensional being was like, all right, he's ready, boom, you know what I'm saying? Your mind would be fried, you know what I'm saying? Sometimes I'm like, God, just give it to me, you know what I'm saying? Like I really want to get over this hump or over this part of my life. So like just in general, maybe like a panorama of like all types of people, what can everybody start to do? Because I believe a lot of humans are coming into a higher self or a higher understanding of there's more than just, I mean, we just had a crazy election, right? And people were like gonna be like, what do I do? You know, but they're gonna think, well, maybe I put too much into the political system.
Yeah.
Right? Yeah. Maybe there's more to me that need to be realized.
Well, I think feeling is one of the most critical aspects of being human in terms of opening up. And when we combine feeling with other skills, so writing, right? It's very powerful to be able to speak aloud feelings or experience feelings and share them with others, right? And that's where we get that high amplitude experience that's in the positive, right? Emotions, you can have a high amplitude experience of emotionality, right? But it's tinged with negativity usually. Usually emotions, when you think of emotions, they're, you know, you raging or you're, you know, it's something's wrong. Right, with an emotional response, right? There's a negative. When you have a feeling state, you can stay in the positive, right? You can have a positive experience, that high amplitude experience, that peak experience really was what a lot of people call it, peak experience, because it's all in the positive. And so really getting rid of those blocks, right? And really doing the work to say, okay, and say if you watch this podcast and you're one of those people that you can't feel, you know, and you're like, that resonates for me. I can't feel very much. I should be able to feel. You know, Kimla's saying, you know, we should be able to feel. You should. It's really about trying to open that up, and we can do a lot of work to do that, right? So for men, just being more open with your feelings, right? That's going to open that wide. It's just going to express it and break up all of that muck that's been blocking it, energetic muck, right?
Yeah.
And I do understand that men, you know, have more strength, right? That's a yang they're bigger, tend to be bigger. They have louder voices. Their throats can hold more.
Right.
And so they might put limits on their expressing their feelings out of fear that they're going to hurt someone, right?
Yeah.
So there is also a level of stability that we need. We need to be stable in our energy body, right? And the stability is magnificent because you attain stability through meditative states, right? So by not reacting to something, right? So when we react to something, it's really the amygdala that's releasing, hormones, right? And in meditation, when we sit and we meditate and we watch our own thoughts, now there's two things happening with the amygdala. The amygdala, you have a sense reception, so you see something, right? And one signal is going to the amygdala. It's the faster signal.
Right.
The slower signal, and not slow by a lot, but just a little bit, is to your prefrontal cortex. So the most developed part of your brain, the most developed, the highest functioning part of your brain. So you have these two signals, and your body's going to have to decide, who am I going to listen to, right? Am I going to listen to the response of the amygdala or my prefrontal cortex? When you sit in meditation long enough, you can start to see and let go of the need to respond based upon the signal that reached the amygdala first. You can wait, and not only can you wait, but see what happens if you do nothing. You know, you can start playing around with these things that are thoughts and feelings. What are they about? And you start learning about your own system. Right? You start learning how to operate your own new system, this subtle energy system. And there's really cool things happening in the world in terms of research and even scientists and cognitive scientists getting more, getting more popular, people knowing more about them, where we can see that our awareness is, and our awareness is key, for our consciousness to really create what we want to create from it, right? Because we're working in the subtle energy territory now, not in the physical. So when we start to work with our subtle energy, we can travel in portals, right? Because we're not confined to the physical anymore. Our consciousness can go to God, right? Now in other indigenous cultures, they've known these things for a long time. We've lost them within our American tribe. We've lost that. Now it's coming back actually very strongly now, and I'm very enthusiastic about it because when people know that they are of God, right, they behave differently because they also know you are of God. Right?
Yeah, and we're like, okay, I want to be treated as you want to be, the golden rule.
That's right. And so we can start to be stable and not reactive on everything that we perceive as an affront. Every sense stimulation is not a threat. So even with the election, mostly my clients this morning or at the morning of the election were texting me, I'm literally terrified right now, right? This is their response, like I'm terrified. Right? So everyone's got a different situation. So that particular person, I called them and I said, what's going on for you? And they're at Walmart, right? They're a college student, they're in grad school, and they're a musician. They're very sensitive, right? And so I said, okay, are you, what I think is happening for you is that you're picking a lot of fear of people around you.
That day, I could sense it.
Yeah. So what you can do is create an energetic field around you using your own energy. That's a natural energy ball around you.
Is that thought? By thought
By
alone?
thought, you program
meditating, okay.
Well, it's a real energy field. You
right,
can actually measure it.
Yeah, it's 30 meters up.
Exactly.
Right.
So the one that's closest to us, you can, with anything, now that you're working in the subtle mind territory, because thoughts, feelings, right? They're measurable. We use them in robotics now, right? So they're measurable. We know that they're at gamma and alpha and beta. We can detect the subtle energy of thought and feeling, right? So if we can measure it, that means that somebody who's walking past you, right, in the mall or at the Walmart, who's terrified, that they're very easily going, their energy is going to impact you, right? Unless you've put up a wall of protection around you, because we do need to do that sometimes. Now, I'm not suggesting that's the best idea for forever, because life would sure be boring, right?
If you're just like, everybody, I'm blocked off.
Yeah.
You do want to feel people's energy.
You do want to feel, it's a gift to be able to feel into someone's energy, right? Wow. So you in heightened states of fear or terror, right? Like this client was in. You really want to create, so you want to, here, why don't you sit with me and we'll just do it together.
I was going to ask.
So it's called, it's called a reball. So it's a resonant energy balloon. And you use the electromagnetic field that's naturally around you by charging it with a thought or a series of thoughts. You're programming this field. So you might say, for the rest of the evening, while I sit with Kimla, I'm going to pop out my reball from my crown chakra, and I'm going to imagine and visualize it going all around me 360 degrees and all the way under. So you first do that visualization, that meditation. And then while you've got that active, you're gonna charge up the field with your thought that I'm going to keep this in place for the next hour, for example. And I'm going to also program it so that my positive thoughts and feelings are allowed through the reball field. So I'm going to block the negative thoughts and feelings, and I'm going to allow others to feel my positivity. So you can program that, and you can set it for a specific amount of time. Because again, you don't want to be going around protected all the time energetically, because that would be very boring indeed. But we do from time to time need that protection, just like we do need protection in other situations. So that's one way where you can protect your energy body from unnecessary negative thoughts that might be coming to you. I used to use it all the time in mediation, right? Because everybody is very stressed out in mediation. They have millions of dollars at stake, and they're not happy, And so I used to use it a lot to protect myself from those very low frequencies that people would project out.
Marital mediation, you mean, or just mediation with business, or just whatever?
Business, environmental mediation.
Oh, that's right. That's the stuff you work. So then I definitely recognize, I was talking to a friend, and we were hanging out, and I told her, I was like, all day I was feeling like people were pensive. Like people were waiting. There was some impending doom, for both sides.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? But I think the night before it was talking about the 11/11 portal, actually, so we can talk about that later, but it was talking about how right now people are very entrenched in like the systems of the earth, right? Whether it's entertainment or business or religion or politics right now, right? Those are certain mountains that, Jesus says, like, push that mountain away, you know what I'm saying? Like, there's way more important things to think about, you know? This is just a system, and like, it's sort of set up already. Like, you know what I'm saying? We don't understand that there are other people at play here with a lot more money, and, we're talking about people trying to dominate worlds here. You know what I'm saying? And so from my perspective looking in, I'm like, it doesn't really matter who wins.
Yeah.
We still have work to do as humans.
Yes.
As we get past the politics and we're protecting ourselves, I guess, spiritually, and we're feeling more. Like, I guess, what does that look like for somebody who has sort of found out, okay, I'm awakening, or I'm having an awakening, like, this is real deal, it's go time.
Right.
How do then we sort of look at the rest of the world, like, because I think me personally, I fell into the trap of like just working on myself only, because then you also start to see people to serve. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So it's like, how does that sort of work? I mean, for you, I mean, you meter yourself, right? You can't help everybody. But I guess you notice when the moment comes, like, how does that work and play out for you? Because you got to recharge. Yeah. Right?
You do. And staying in balance, because you have to have balance to help. And so it's, I think there's a physicist who, identified there's 20,000 now moments, within a day, right? Wow. 20,000 of them. So you have 20,000 different opportunities to say yes or no to something. Now, knowing that you have, when you're in an awakening process, you already are kind of moving on the other side of service. You're totally moving away from service to self, right? So you don't really need to do much in terms of who am I going to serve, right?
Right.
You need to follow who you're inspired to serve, and then you right size the work you're doing in that domain. So to make sure that you get enough rest, that you get enough positive energy, because when you work and you're bringing people up, we all, we have different levels of skillfulness with that, right? As a Reiki master, you're bringing through Reiki, which is universal life force energy. And you're trying to bring that through in a pristine state. That's not your energy. You're just channeling that energy, right? And that energy of God is coming through, and it's healing the person. The person, if they're desirous of it, you're not actually doing anything. You're just the channel. Now, sometimes you get caught up because you love that person, you care about that person, and you're giving a lot of your own personal energy, your own chi, when you shouldn't be, when it should really just be this universal life force. But we can't help it, we're human. So we get better and better at noticing, okay, am I putting more of my own stuff in there? Or am I just being a channel for this love that's coming through me? Right. And you can do that in any part of your life, making sure that you are paying your bills, that you are, you know what I mean?
So
that
you're not afraid to be on the street.
Exactly. So that you are in balance, and that you're all of those levels in which you occupy, that they are being respected and balanced out. So you do want to do that. You want to make sure that all of those aspects of who you are in any of those now moments, that they're in balance, right? So again, coming back to awareness, the more you can be aware, the more that you trust that it's not you actually, that's the thing being aware, that you can just flow really into these states and not have to worry so much about trying to calculate, an outcome.
Wow. Yeah. And that's, I guess maybe that goes back to the blockages. Sometimes those blockages are there because you want peace or you want fulfillment, right? So then we talked a little bit about the blockages, but when you feel them, right, and you meditate, like when you notice something's there, how do you release? How do you get rid of it? You know what I'm saying? Because you can see that you have trauma. Right. You know what I'm saying? But then, what do you do with, you know what I'm saying? You can journal about it. Right. But then if you can journal about it all day and still, it'll be there tomorrow. Right. You see what I'm saying? So how do you move energy? There's two ways, right? Okay. One, letting go. Okay. Intention. Okay. Letting go intentionally. So that's more of the yin approach, right? Okay. So there's two different approaches.
One's a yin approach. That's just the letting go, right?
Okay.
You're not actually doing anything,
Right.
but you see it and you're letting it go, right? You're not holding on to it anymore.
Okay. So you're turning your ego off and saying, okay, I'm not going to think about it anymore.
Well,
right? Or
you're not really turning anything off. It's like more like a balloon that you're releasing.
A red balloon. Okay.
Right?
Yeah.
It's not that you're like avoiding it or not looking at it. You're saying when it comes up in the moment. So for example, judgment.
Okay.
Right? So anytime we have a judgment, that's really showing us something we're judging about ourselves.
Right.
Right?
Right.
So it's really trying to come back to, why do I have this okay, I'm judging someone else.
Mm-hmm.
It's really about me and my own judgments about myself.
Right. That's
right?
biblical.
And then how do I let go and love myself and let that judgment go? Right?
Okay.
So we could take the yin approach. If we can do that, we can say, I'm going to love myself, and I'm just going to love myself because I know I am of God. So I'm just going to love myself because God created me and I am of God, and I'm just going to love myself because I'm going to give myself grace. Right?
I'm imperfect, I'm human.
Yeah, I'm imperfect, and I understand, I see the reflection and why this thing was happening for me to learn that, right? And I'm grateful, right?
So then you can grow and say, okay, I won't do that again, or I'll have a different response. I won't use the amygdala.
Right.
I'll sit, okay, refrain.
Yeah.
Maybe I don't need to say anything.
Exactly.
Maybe I don't need to defend myself.
Exactly.
The 4 agreements.
Yeah.
Right.
Right.
Don't take anything personally. Don't speak a negative word over yourself. Do your best, and then don't assume.
Right.
I got them out of order, but
yeah.
You could say,
yeah.
Okay.
Okay. So then the other approach is the more yang approach.
Okay.
Right. The take action.
Okay.
Right.
All right.
I have judgment around myself because I did X.
Right.
Well, now I'm going to make up for X. Right.
Okay.
Because I did X, and now I want to make amends. And things we might have done as kids, even like, oh, I did that when I was a kid, and I feel such regret for that. How can I make amends, you know?
Right.
So for example, my sister came up to me a couple of years ago, and she said, you know, you were really mean to me in high school, and you know, I didn't get defensive. I said, that must have been really hard I was the older sister, that you were the younger sister, and you felt I was mean to you because I didn't want you hanging out with me and my friends. Very common, right, situation.
Yeah.
So instead of being defensive and saying, well, blah, 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 or whatever you would say.
Or judging her. Get over it.
Yeah, get it. Why are you still carrying that around?
Right.
I just said, I am so sorry. That is terrible. I'm sorry you had to go through that. I'm sorry I'm the one who did that to you. I'm so sorry, you know? And she was like, oh, it's okay. You know? Immediately it was done.
Because she might have been expecting a fight, or not even a fight, but a little, and she was probably, I'm going to tell Kim finally, you know, and finally, and it just took her off guard. She was like, okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
And now we have actually an amazing relationship. So
that's cool.
It's that was taking action. That was that yang, taking responsibility.
Right.
Not being totally vulnerable and taking full responsibility, because guess what? The power differential was in my favor there. I was the older child. She was the younger child. I had more power than she did. It was my responsibility to take care of her, right? It was recognizing that power differential and apologizing for it. Right?
Okay.
And that healed it. So that's more of a yang approach, right?
Okay.
And that's what they have in the 12 steps, right? Where there's some step where they all go out and they say, I'm sorry.
Yeah, making amends.
Making amends, right?
Right.
And you have to authentically really feel that, right? For the damage that you caused, that entity that was a part of you at the time that you were an addict or you were an alcoholic, that entity drove your behavior. But you have to own that you allowed that entity inside of you, right? But you get to heal through that yang process of asking for forgiveness and being totally vulnerable and saying, I'm sorry, I'm sorry for the harm I did you, right? And that heals it. We see totally different responses in the biofields, even when people, after doing something like that, they come out, their energy is way, way up, right? Because they took that strong, action-oriented way of healing themselves, right? So you can do the yin and you can do the yang, and it's not like one or the other. It matters what the context is, what is the thing, and that's how wisdom grows us actually, is taking those steps to bring up your own frequency using either a yin or yang approach, because you have to decide. You have to decide which is more skillful, this one or this one, right? And once you make that decision, say I'm going to try to let it go. I'm going to try to let it go. It doesn't work. The energy's still there. You still hurt. You're still triggered. You still trigger the other person, right? And then okay, this is not the right approach here. I'm going to have to, let me try the yang, right? So it becomes the more exciting and opportunistic, right? Because every energy system that you're experiencing can be healed. And you realize this, that if I tried one way and failed, let me try another way. I know that there's only two choices here. There's just the yin or the yang. I'm in a dualistic system. There's only two types of energies. So let me figure out which one is the best energy in this situation.
And energy being positive, negative, right?
Well, I think...
Or light and dark? Or,
yeah, I mean, it depends on the context. But if we're looking at it in terms of our human relationships, we can really break everything down into the yin or the yang. So the feminine or the masculine, right? The feminine energy, and everybody has both. Right. That's true. And the feminine energy is more receiving, right? The male is more sending. It's more action, right? Receiving versus sending. So is the skillful option to receive in this case, or let go, something like that? Or is it more, I'm going to take action, or I need to apply courage, or I need to apply strength, Right. And when you look at the subtle energy system, you see, and you would see this in, if you studied acupuncture, any of the Oriental medicine, that the back is the yang side, and the front, not all of it, but a lot of the front, the receiving, is the yin. So this front, right? And if you do yoga and you go to a yoga class, right? All the women can do these yin poses where they're totally exposed, right? Very hard for men to do. Very hard. If camel, when you go back, a lot of men can't do that. And it's not about flexibility. It's because they've been told to not use their yin energy, right? But their yang is the back. It's the strength, when we carry too much, when we're out of balance with how much responsibility we've taken on, that isn't ours, right? We've done it out of a maybe to be a people pleaser, or maybe to be, to prove something, right? That our back hurts, but our very strong back is our yang side. So we have these two aspects within our own body, that when we start to tune into it, we can see, okay, like this feels like I want to try the yin approach. I want to open my heart. I just want to open it and be vulnerable. That's a yin approach, right? Do I want to take action? Do I want to invite a conversation with someone? But that's a hard conversation, right? That's a yang approach. That's the male.
It takes action.
Takes action, right?
And sometimes the action is you have to take action, but then know that you're going to receive.
That's right.
So there's
So in any of those 20,000 now moments, so in that conversation, right? If you say, there's like 100 now moments in this conversation, you might have to take a bunch of different things, yin and yang. You might have to give and receive, like you're saying. Yeah.
And this was yin and yang too.
Exactly.
Right?
Yes.
Because, I would rather just receive, because selfishly, but then I have to also I'm thinking about people that might need help, and I wanted to draw you out.
That's right. Exactly.
Okay.
So it's a dance.
It is a dance.
Right?
Yeah.
And it's a more expansive dance than we thought, right? Because you have a male form, I have a female form, right? So yang, yin, right? We thought we were just dancing, the two of us, but really now it's gotten more complicated because we have yin and yang inside of us both.
Right.
Now there's yin and yang,
Yeah.
right? And now we have four. We have quadrants, and we can play with those four quadrants back and forth, right?
Yeah, and it takes time, and I guess also there's trust, right?
Right.
I trusted you because I felt like something just brought me here. You know, and there's been a lot of moments in my life where I felt like there might not have been as much choice as I thought. Maybe I do have a lot of choice, but the way I operate, I feel like there's some moments that are just like set up.
Yeah.
Like they're almost just like, it's like on the table, and it's like, this was the choice I was gonna make. Like Neo looking back, he was gonna wake up, and the door's gonna knock, and he's gonna go to the door. And Morpheus is gonna offer the red and the blue pill. And Neo being like, okay, I've been stuck at my desk for years. I'm gonna take this adventure now.
Right.
You know? So that's where it gets kind of, I don't want to say freaky, but it's like, there's some things you're like, geez, like, I'm at a point now where I feel like I'm making choice. I'm sort of, I'm doing my yin-yang, I'm blocking, getting rid of the trauma, but it feels like some of it's like, it's actually on time.
Yeah.
Like things were gonna happen a certain way, and man,
And now I'm going to trip you out more because, time, the dimension of time.
Right.
And this isn't physics. This isn't even metaphysics. This is actually applied physics in our reality, right? That time operates in both directions. Well, it operates in more than two directions, but we actually know that it operates both in a forward arrow and a reverse arrow, right? Richard Feynman. So we all know that there's something called a PET scan.
Yeah.
Right? And that P in PET scan is for positron.
Okay.
Okay? Positron is a positively charged electron, right? And it's sort of like the yin and the yang of the electron world, right? But Richard Feynman got the Nobel Prize for this because the physicist who came up with the math for how a positron could exist and work in the world, Feynman looked at that and said, if you assume time is in a reverse arrow for your calculations, it's all going to work out fine. Your calculations are correct. So they did that, and they saw, hell, that's true. The positron does work in reverse time, okay? So the PET scan works because gamma is released, right, from that when that positron is detected. And so that positron is literally working in reverse time and being detected in physical reality, right? So we operate in a world where we recognize that the arrow of time doesn't just go in forward sense, it also goes in reverse. Okay, right. So now we've changed the nature of how we understand the dimension of time itself. Right. Once you start understanding that time operates in both, it can operate in both directions because subatomic particles have both. They have a complement to all of the forward arrow subatomic particles have a reverse arrow subatomic particle associated with it. So what does that say about our own experience of time? So all of your thoughts, feelings are all meeting in the middle, right? All of them are meeting in the middle. And so that's why when you attain enough stability that things, this is where synchronicity comes in, right? So you're noticing more and more and more things have synchronicity to them, right? More experiences have this synchronicity. Now that's possible because you're actually creating the synchronicity by working from this present moment.
Yeah.
And the creation is meeting it back in the same now moment from both the future and the past. So you can't do it wrong.
The alpha and omega.
You can't get it wrong. It has to be, when it's in balance, it's going to come back perfectly in that now moment. So that's when those synchronicities are recognizable, because they feel like, how is this even statistically possible that this could happen so perfectly? You know?
Vu. Like,
right.
Vu's a weird thing too.
Right.
Like you feel like, I was here before.
Right.
I'm just making sure my camera is still on. I was here before. Huh. Or, oh my God, okay. Yeah. I'm just tripping out because as you were talking, I felt, you know how you see the wisdom stars or something like that?
Yes.
When you start to say certain things, I start to trip out, not because I'm weirded out, but I feel like the room, Lord of the Rings.
Yes.
And where the wizard, he's like happy-go-lucky, and all of a sudden he says, "Do not mistake me for a fool of a toque," you know? You can just imagine, like, the room grows dark, like, the room doesn't grow dark for me.
Yes.
But I feel
like
the weight of, like, this power.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? Like, even right in here, right now.
Right.
You know what I'm saying?
Yes.
And I felt like that was a moment I was like, okay, something's happening here, right? I see you saying that, and I'm looking at you, and you're, like, changing almost. It's, I mean, you know, I'm like, is she even from this world? Like, what the heck is going on? That's why I asked the other day, I was like, you a Nordic? Like, what the heck? Like you might be, like, way more wise than you realize. You might not be from here. This is the last question, I promise. So, I know you're also psychic. Like, you probably read my mind, which is weird. But I just go with it. I'm like, I don't really care if she can read my mind. What do you think is going to happen, like, right now, 2024, coming in 2025? How do people, like, kind of, I don't know, just get along in 2024, 25, like dealing with, for instance, elections, dealing with other people that are dealing with elections, dealing with their family members.
Yeah.
I mean, just what do you think is going to happen?
Yeah.
Like, in general. The 9/11 portal, right?
Yeah. I mean, the rate of change is a lot right now. So it's important for people.
Feels like things are picking up.
Yeah. And so you really have to be mindful of that balance, right? And not feel like every crisis has to be dealt with in the moment, right? And so you can come back to, it's okay if I don't deal with this right in this moment. You know, it's really important to take care of your own psyche and your own mental health, because that's the gateway into the larger experience, right? That's the stability, right? And every experience of greater expanded awareness really comes out of being able to be stable. Psychic is just your third eye, subtle energy is open and operating. It's unblocked, right?
Okay.
We could go over image after image, and I could show you that, right? We actually can see it physically. You don't need to be psychic to actually see someone's third eye chakra, right? And that when it's operating and fully functioning, we're receiving a lot of information. And you really need to dial back what you're taking in. Okay.
So TV, news.
Yes. Okay. Yeah. And really start some good energy hygiene for yourself.
Okay.
Right? Right? What you just said. Anytime that you feel like you're watching the news and you're feeling bad,
turn it off.
Turn it off.
And the music too. The music frequencies have been tampered with.
Yeah. Anytime you experience anything and you start feeling bad, turn it off.
Okay.
There's no reason to be watching it. And the more you do that, the more things around you will respond with more positive things.
Gotcha.
Right? If you start turning from those negative frequencies, the more positive frequencies are going to flow to you. So you're not going to be overwhelmed with negativity all the time, right? And there's plenty out there. Anywhere you look, you can find lots of negativity.
Right.
And anytime, 24/7, and that's really the change for us, is that there is no barrier to any experience anymore. Okay. We can have it all, right?
Right.
So we have to use our own good sense to how much do I want to experience right now, and how much do I want to feel right now. When do I want to stay in a state of equanimity? You know, giving us those opportunities as well, and not being afraid of boredom. You know, fear of being alone and being bored because we don't have another around us. I mean, we naturally want to be with one another.
That's true.
Right?
That's humans.
It's humans. It's knowing that we will be, right?
Right.
I mean, I feel myself drawn into that too. I love the work I do. I absolutely love talking and talking in deep, meaningful conversation in hypnotic states with individuals to get to the deepest part of who they are, right? They live incredible past lives. They, you know, have incredible experiences of being other beings on other planets. Who wouldn't want to spend their day doing that, right?
That's pretty far out.
And when they leave, I'm like, oh, I wish they were back. You know, I wish they were there. And then I have to catch myself and say, no, I need my own time because I don't know who I am, right? I need to spend time to find out who I am.
Because you're evolving.
I'm evolving just like that person,
Right.
So I need to make sure I spend enough time to understand who I am in this now moment. And I can only do that when I'm by myself. Right? So it's creating enough space for ourselves to know who we are so that when we re-engage with another, that we have certainty about who we are right now.
Right. And you don't have to people please, you don't have to jump through any hoops. And you're not assuming anything. You know, you're so settled in yourself, you're like, this person loves me. He didn't mean that, he didn't mean that. Yes. You know what I'm saying? You're so, and then you have more space to yin-yang.
Yeah.
Instead of like, you know, yang, 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 or
yes.
you know,
yes.
you know, and it's like, it's flowing because you trust the process.
That's right.
Because a part of you is trust being alone.
That's right.
Trusting the creator's process to be molding and building something.
Yes.
Which
yes.
is ever changing.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. You're in service to that. So, so taking care of that stability, you know, and making sure that you feel whole and the energy hygiene around the things you're consuming, right? Because it does start to become, what is the food I'm eating? You know, what kind of food am I putting in my body? If it's of a low frequency, because it's it's processed at all, it's gonna feel bad later. You know?
Eventually, I've eaten too much McDonald's.
Right.
After Halloween, it's like you can overload on candy.
Yes, you can. Yes, you can.
Or wine.
Or anything.
Anything
you can be in wrong relationship with. So it's knowing, am I out of balance here with this thing that I'm doing right now? And do I need to come into balance because I feel bad pretty soon after eating all my candy from McDonald's.
My body says don't eat cheese, and I love pizza. You know?
Right. So just more energy hygiene as subtle energy becomes more of your experience of the world. It's such a gift, right? Because you can start traveling through portals, right? You can start. I have a dream yoga group that I run, and you know, this group, we've studied together. I taught the practices over the 4 months, and then we come together every month, and we have shared dream experiences together.
That's cool.
Which is very cool. And the
over Zoom. That's crazy.
So it's really cool because you can start, and this is new for me too, because out of my Tibetan tradition, I didn't so much have these kinds of experiences where other people also remember being present in the dream simultaneously with the amount of frequency that it is, you know. So this is cool for me. This is my kind of leading edge of like, okay, what are we going to do tonight? Where are we going to go? Where are we going to travel? You've been there already, you know? Take us there, you know? So it's my turn to lead this month. So I don't know where I'm going to take everyone, but I'm super excited to do it.
I was in a weird group like that too. They were on the West Coast, and I started having a lot of visions of a feasting table. But then, I don't know where I was, what kind of dimension, but I was always feeling like I was going to a heavenly dimension. and there was always a river or some sort of trip we were going on, but I was seeing stones, I was seeing things from their personal lives, like hats, songs, just words, things like that. And it was interesting because they were having things that would like pour into like, oh, that was a thought I was having, or that was something like, we're very much more connected than we realize.
Yes.
You know?
Yeah.
I think that is cutting edge.
Yes.
So I'm like a scientist, like a mad scientist. I'm always like trying to tinker. I don't know how the heck it happened, but she was praying with a friend, and I was praying for her, and I was intently praying for her. And she literally was praying and saw me in a vision. She said, "Get out of here. What are you doing? I'm praying about something serious." And I think in her vision, I was like trying to like cheer her up and like, hey, you know, like, come on. And she's like, "I'm serious right now. Like, get out of here," you know? And so I was just like, every time I talk to her now, and I was say, you know, I might pop up.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? Who knows what's going to happen?
Yeah,
you know?
Exactly.
Way back when, that's how we were. And maybe we didn't even have to talk.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Practicing.
That's right. You have to practice. You have to trust your own instincts around these channels that we're opening up, right? Because the telepathy is really that we're just on the same frequency.
Right.
And so the information can flow back and forth very easily.
Right.
And so it seems like we're having the same thought, but it's just like so instantaneous that maybe it's coming from me and you're receiving it, but that's the way the transfer, because it's non-local in nature. It's more of that quantum experience where it doesn't really so much matter if it's you or me, because it's a shared experience.
Right.
Because the ego's out of it now. So we don't need the ego anymore to have experiences. We can have experiences more in the oneness rather than in separation.
That's awesome.
Energy hygiene.
Now, a third eye. Everybody's like, "Oh, I need to find my third eye." I don't smell bad, but I use different deodorant now.
Okay.
You know. And like almost a year and a half ago, it was like no fluoride. Those two little subtle changes, though, I feel like they had a big difference.
Yes.
But what are some other things? Is it just turning on a video and, third eye chakra meditation, or what's something that you've noticed like this really like helped unblock me?
So I think a lot of practice is just because you really need to start trusting first thought, best thought.
Okay.
Right? Because that information that wants to come through that third eye is not processing through the brain.
Right.
Right? It's processing, it's not even processing, it's self-arising. So it's coming from somewhere else.
It's
so
receiving. It's more of a receiver.
It's receiving, and to receive it and then understand it in cognition, you don't want to be using your brain. And so this is what they teach with remote viewing, right? When I teach remote viewing,
I have remote viewed before.
Yeah, so you know what it's like.
Yeah.
You don't take the information, you get the gestalt, right? You get the impression, and you draw it or you write it out, but you're not analyzing it. And ideally we're doing this, we're practicing it, right? So. And we're respecting the free will of others, right? Free will choices of others. So we're not remote viewing into someone's house that we don't have any permission to do, right? You're selecting based upon appropriate content that is right.
Yeah.
And
I'm a protector.
Right.
So I say to myself, if my friend, like I want to go and I want to make sure my friend's house is safe.
Right.
Even spiritually speaking.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? I've sort of, in my mind's eye, I've gone there and I've prayed over the house.
Right.
You know what I'm saying?
Right.
And I've asked protection over the four walls. And I've asked angels to be around the house.
Right.
You know what I'm saying?
Right.
I feel connected, like, for this person to be like, protective.
That's right.
You know what I'm saying?
So that's your purpose. That's something that's going to have enough energy behind it to be able to sit there and then do that work.
It's a holy process.
Right.
Where God can honor that.
That's right. So finding the thing that is has enough energy behind it for yourself to want to spend time doing a remote view, that's always the right thing. Absolutely. It's a great practice. It's really fun. And then you get better at it, so over of doing it, you get better doing it. And they have software out there for people who don't, work in a group. You can just get random pictures generated.
Really?
Yeah, where then you remote into the picture. You draw the picture. It could be anything, and then you can compare and see did I get my target or not.
Wow.
Right? So definitely using your third eye, and trusting your intuition. I work with a lot of people in their subtle energy system, enhancing it, removing those blocks and getting things to operate more fully functional. What I do see a lot in when I biofield image or feel into someone, that when their third eye is not working quite right, it looks like kind of like an hourglass, like this, and it's kind of cut off in the middle, right? Okay. And that's a problem, because that vortex, really what the chakra is an energy vortex that's operating usually in counterclockwise, but but that vortex operates ideally rotating, right? Okay. So it's going to operate when it's in a circle the best.
Right.
So when it's cut off in the middle like that doesn't help it. Okay. And when we get that third eye cut off like that, it's because we have a conflict between the information that we can receive through our third eye and the culture in which we are living. Western culture. Right. So I recently did a whole program with some Europeans in Romania, and there were, out of a group of about 20, maybe 23, there were 5-6 of them with that type of third eye, and it comes out of the past of their families being gypsies and being persecuted. So then their parents have told them, don't use that, don't be doing anything with that, right? Okay. So they have this fear now they've been indoctrinated into, okay, any information I get from my third eye is dangerous. It's not good for my family. Right. So they close it down. They shut it off, right? And so that's one thing of just working on letting go of that fear program, right? Letting go of the fear program associated with that. So and you can know that. I mean, people can, ask me for biofield imaging, but you might want to just see how well you do, with some psychic games. Yeah. And just see, am I getting it? Is it, because that there are objective ways of saying whether you're hitting the target or you're not hitting the target, so those are all fun things, but you should be aligned with the things that you want to do. Some people have a calling because of losing a loved one. They might want to be a medium, or work in that space, because they can connect a loved one who had passed with another loved one who hasn't, right? And that's heart-centered work, so they're really into that. There's lots of different opportunities and applications for psychic work, for sure. Yeah.
Well, I think me personally, I've been drawn to setting people free. So I sort of operate on this wavelength of understanding that you watched the movie Ghostbusters?
Yes.
You know what I'm saying?
Yes.
I'm just like, you know what? There's some things that don't need to be around here, And so it's just like, I work a lot and I believe this is where the Lord's kind of leading me, is like helping people be relieved of these entities that, what I'm saying? But a lot of it is us, what I'm saying? It, like you're saying earlier, the thoughts.
Yeah.
I had a vision one time where the Lord was showing me angels, they love the glory of the Lord, the Shekinah glory, you know what I'm saying? But really what they love is when people are operating in conjunction with the Creator's kind of mandate for their life. And so when they're at a high level of frequency where they're less about themselves, where they're open to okay, God, use me. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Certain angels will pop up where you're ready for a next level. See what I'm saying? We have guardian angels, Some angels come when you're ready for the next step.
Right.
You see what I'm saying? They have keys, so to speak.
Yes.
And so it feels like sometimes where you put yourself for like the best use of who you are, then like those doors sort of open up and things sort of come in conjunction. And for me personally, I feel like part of my mandate is to help people like be freed up, so there's less of the negativity, and there's more of like an eye to kind of see, okay, like this is like where this is where I can go.
Yeah.
And like these systems have been putting things on me, these paradigms and my fears, you know what I'm saying? And part of also my other is like just to be like, we're actually more powerful than we realize.
Yes.
You know, as beings, like we have a lot more going for us. Whether you're Christian or not, like I was reading just in Genesis the other day, there's a mandate for everybody. You know what I'm saying? Like it's a good idea to take Jesus up on his way. It's different than the church.
Right.
You know what I'm saying?
Right.
He just says, come with me, you know, my children. You don't have, it's not about going to like the mass on Sunday or you have to take even a sacrament. He said, you can take this meal in remembrance of me. But the woman that touched his garment was healed instantly.
Right.
The man that was on the cross, he said, well, okay, you can come in paradise with me.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? So a lot of where we're at, I believe, right now is we're losing this idea that there are parameters that you have to walk into first to then be loved. And I think ultimately, like creators, like, I love you already.
Yes.
Because if you look at the beginning of some of these ancient scriptures, I loved you already.
Yes.
And I gave you a mandate, meaning you were fulfilling something that you could then do.
Right.
You didn't have to work into it.
Right.
It was like, right when I created you, you can be fruitful and multiply. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And fruitful meaning like there's life, but multiply is like there's favor and there's blessing. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Meaning like you don't have to be a certain age, look a certain way, have all the right words, have all the right knowledge, like it's right away.
Yeah.
And that's kind of where I want to kind of, maybe you can encourage people because I feel like you've been an encouragement to me, but like if there's anything you can say to anybody right now that's going through anything that's difficult, you know what I'm saying? Because you've been through difficult times.
Yeah,
and you know I've been through some stuff too. So, also, do you have any books or anything going on?
Oh, I will have a book out next year. It's
Okay.
called Feel.
Okay.
It's about feelings. It's about how to hack your, it's a human handbook for understanding your own feelings. Really, really compelled. I was compelled to write it because of all of those heart chakras that are blocked, and really wanting to give the information that's needed to unblock those hearts, you know.
It's a wisdom book.
Yeah, I feel like it is. I mean, it feels channeled, so I'd like to come out with that very soon next year, and but I think for me, I see people's highest self, like their higher self. I see that in them.
Yeah.
That's all I see. I never see anybody's the
lowest
self,
or like coming with the crisis. You don't see that.
I don't ever run into that. I don't physically see it. It's not part of I guess the territory I'm in. So I always see this beautiful person, full of love and full of potential and full of understanding. That's all I see in people. So I couldn't even not see that. Right?
That's a gift.
I can't. Yeah. So I sometimes wish people could see what I see, how I see them. Right. It's clear to me they don't understand that part of them.
Wow.
So I guess I'd wish for that. I wish for everyone to see how I see them.
Right. Which is a lot of your channeling, or you're connected to your highest self. You're, on this journey, which is like propelled you. You're my friend. I call is like, I'm gonna go do a podcast with my lady guru friend. And you are a guru. You know what I'm saying? In some like circles and some wisdom traditions, like you would be a guru. Or you would be a high priestess or whatever, or master. I don't know.
Well, there's in the Tibetan tradition, I've had incredible teachers who are gurus, right? So why wouldn't I be?
Exactly.
Right? Because I paid attention, because I took to heart and I implemented everything that they showed me.
Right.
Right? So of course, then you become that because that's who you are because that's the nutrition you received from your teacher.
Yeah,
right?
And it would be a disservice.
Exactly.
Because you have such great knowledge that has to be shared.
That's right. They invested in me.
Right.
So I need to share what they invested with me through this unusual lens of this white woman who has kids,
right.
who worked as an engineer and a mediator, right. and is doing hypnosis now and is a Reiki master.
It's far out.
It's a weird. I
who
never.
Has a past life? Who has been with Jesus too?
And with Jesus, yeah.
Right.
That what a gift, right? To be
amazing.
Present for his life.
Such a monumental period.
Right.
In the history of the earth.
Right. So I think that if we could all see that higher part of us, that who we are truly, that very quickly we would all just be living in love and light,
Yeah, and not
very
in
quickly.
disunity and coercion and confusion.
Yeah, because when I look at, say, even, any, I mean, honestly, either of the presidential candidates, there's so much, they don't see who they are.
That's
right?
true.
They don't, I can see that they don't see who they are. I do. I see who they are. And so that's really the work we're all doing, right? We're just falling in love with ourselves, right?
Right.
And what that means, from the perspective that we have to hold wisdom and compassion as our highest ideals.
Right.
Right? We have to have those two wings of that dove. They have to come together for us to fly. We have to understand them. And that the higher levels, above that, we have emptiness and bliss, right? That's a translation of what those are. But we know the ecstasy of knowing God, right?
Right.
We know that ecstasy. That's the mystics have talked, the Christian mystics they've written about that, and why they've been burned at the stake,
Right. Oh my gosh.
And then we have this aspect of emptiness, which is that all potentials exist simultaneously, right? All potentials. And we can look to, this is what quantum mechanics is and teaches us, is that this 0 point field, this energy field that has all potentials that are present at the same time. So this idea of emptiness we hold within our zeitgeist. And so we really need to understand that compassion and wisdom are equivalent to emptiness and bliss. And we can have this love and light experience all the time. We don't have to compromise it. We don't have to be our lowest self. We can be our highest self. And the only thing that's keeping us from it is fear.
That's a big deal. That was amazing. I'm hoping these things are just sleeping. Wow. I wonder where it went out. Well, I had that going the whole time.
Well, something wasn't meant to be recorded. Something we were saying,
I don't know. Let's see.